So spending on homelessness spikes to a shocking amount in Portland metro area. That shocking amount being over $500 million, over $500 million spent on just homelessness, outreach, everything associated with that. That is for 3 counties in Oregon, kind of surrounding that Portland area. All right. As you're letting that sink in, $500 million. I want you to watch this video. This is a Fox special, and it gives both sides to a court case that is super important that the Supreme Court is going to be deciding on, has decided to hear, and it is a case out of Oregon. Let's watch the video.
We can see the harmful effects of the Ninth Circuit's decisions up and down the West Coast as cities have. We can see the harmful effects of the Ninth Circuit's decisions up and down the West Coast as cities have become overrun by encampments.
It is completely incorrect when people say that this case and this decision somehow limits what cities can do to regulate encampments, to sweep camps, to move camps.
It's just manipulative hogwash. What's going on at the West Coast is what's coming to a neighborhood near you.
My name's Ed Johnson. I'm the Director of Litigation at the Oregon Law Center. This case originated in our Grants Pass office in 2017. We started to hear from people in the community who were living outside, who were being awakened in the middle of the night by the police and told essentially there was no place at all for them to sleep in the city. And then we also heard that people were getting ticketed and arrested and jailed. And the federal district court in Medford found in our favor that criminalizing someone for living outside and trying to stay warm and dry with a blanket violates the cruel and unusual punishments clause of the Eighth Amendment.
If they were truly doing just that, I would say, okay, yeah. All right. But that's not the case, is it? In these specials,
we can see the harmful effects of the Ninth Circuit's decisions up and down.
Found in our favor that criminalizing someone for living outside and trying to stay warm and dry with a blanket violates the cruel and unusual punishments clause of the Eighth Amendment. The Ninth Circuit agreed with the district court and upheld that. The city petitioned the Supreme Court to hear the case, and the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case back in January.
Hi, my name is DNA Evangelist. I'll be arguing for Grants Pass in Grants Pass versus Johnson. It's an incredibly important case that will have nationwide ramifications on how cities are able to address homelessness. The Ninth Circuit held that cities are not allowed to regulate camping in their jurisdictions until they have enough shelter for everyone. That has made it impossible for cities to address very unsafe and unhealthy conditions and to get people the help that they so desperately need. Now we've seen the phenomenon of people refusing offers of help and services. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to leave people in dangerous encampments. It's unacceptable as a society for us to continue to condone this sort of human suffering. And we've seen in Portland and Seattle that cities have to grapple with very dangerous conditions at the same time as they are working on long-term solutions to end homelessness.
It is completely incorrect when people say that this case and this decision somehow limits what cities can do to regulate encampments, to sweep camps, to move camps. There's nothing in the Ninth Circuit decision that prohibits a city from saying no tents, for example. The only thing that cities can't do is the one thing that Grants Pass has done and wants to continue to do, and that is to make it unlawful for people to sleep outside with a blanket when they have nowhere else to go, to cover themselves with a blanket so that they don't die of hypothermia on every inch of city land 24 hours a day. For obvious reasons, our assertion is that that's cruel and it's unusual because that kind of sweeping 24-hour a day, every inch of public land banishment and punishment is very uncommon. And the rule in this case doesn't apply when there is available shelter space. So if someone is offered shelter and they decline it, they could still be ticketed and arrested under this decision. In Grants Pass, there is no homeless shelter. There are no available shelter beds for people. And so that issue hasn't come up in Grants Pass itself.
What he's saying is just manipulative hogwash. Hi, my name is Brian Boteller. I'm the executive director of the Grants Pass Gospel Rescue Mission. I have been at less than half full since 2020. Are there need for other services? Yes, there are need for other services. Is there enough shelter beds? Yeah, there's enough shelter beds. There's enough shelter beds for the folks that want to leave homelessness. We're not afraid of our children playing in the playground accidentally getting poked by someone's pillow.
It's only cities within the Ninth Circuit now that are subject to this rule that's made it impossible and has caused widespread paralysis. And we can see the harmful effects of the Ninth Circuit's decisions up and down the West Coast as cities have become overrun by encampments and people who need help are not getting it.
It has effectively wrecked a state's ability to regulate their own property and within a city to tell them what they can and can't do inside the public spaces in their community. And I hope that they will overturn that. If they don't, what will happen is whatever's going on the West Coast, and I hope that the rest of the nation looks at it, what's going on at the West Coast is what's coming to a neighborhood near you.
So all the West Coast cities and the rest of the nation is looking at this court case that is going to be decided by the Supreme Court sometime this summer. That's what we're told. Where everybody's kind of on hold, waiting to see the end result, see what the Supreme Court says regarding this outcome. So right now, the issue has been states feel like they have their hands tied because this court decision said it's illegal to try and banish people from the parks if they're just sitting there shivering with a blanket. Like the one guy said, if they're just there with a blanket, it's illegal to move them out. That's cruel and unusual punishment. But these people, like the other individual said, a lot of these people don't want to leave. They're not looking for a bed in a shelter system. They are looking to stay homeless and continue doing their drugs. Now, in that special, we didn't talk about drug addiction. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. We just talked about the overall impact, which is we're spending over $500 million in just 3 counties where the homelessness is the worst. Multnomah County being the absolute worst because it's got Portland, and Portland is the poster child for how not to handle homelessness because it's just been overrun. Now it's tourism for homeless, and the drug addicted homeless is what's happened. People want to come to Multnomah County, and they know that the soft on crime in Multnomah County don't get arrested in Washington County adjacent. Because man, you might actually do some time. So you've got this whole society, you've got this whole environment in Multnomah County, and the tri-state area, or the tri-county area, is paying for it essentially. Big numbers. Their numbers are going way up. because homelessness has not decreased. These individual cities don't feel like they have the option to do a sweep if they don't have the, beds in shelter for all of these people. The deal to me is you got to sweep people. You got to make it tough for them to live there, because it's illegal to just squat anywhere and just do a bunch of drugs in most communities. But you've been so progressive in Portland. You've been so progressive in Multnomah County. This is what you get. And Portland residents, you guys voted this in. You guys voted this in. So you have yourselves to blame. So maybe next time you're making decisions at the poll, you might want to reconsider going for all that progressive nonsense, because this is what it leads to. This is what it has led to. Same deal in Seattle. Seattle early on revoked that whole, hey, let's just let all the drugs go. Same thing in Oregon. You know what? Maybe that whole concept where we just allow all the hard drugs to be, decriminalized, where, maybe you get a $50 ticket at worst. And then if you call up the hotline and you say, hey, tell me about rehab, you can basically get your ticket, eradicated from your history. And the percentage of people literally calling up that hotline is virtually none. It's like a couple percent of the people that have been ticketed for basically a misdemeanor for hard drugs. And so everybody in the United States knows, hey, go to Portland. It's great there. It's awesome there. Don't see a lot of homeless people in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, because you're going to do time. If those drugs are on you and you get busted, you're going to do time. And in Oklahoma City, I talk about that a lot because that's where my parents are. And it's one of those really well-run cities from a financial standpoint. And they don't mess around with having tents just the F everywhere. They just don't. Very, very contained to a few small areas. And they don't let it just go. Oh, yeah, just grab yourself a tent, make yourself at home. We'll feed you. Just poop wherever. Just do whatever. Whatever you want to do. It's okay. It's like the one dude says, in the video, we're not worried about our children stepping on, somebody's pillow and getting spiked with who knows what. That's not really the case. We're not spending thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to pick up somebody's pillow from sleeping in the park with their blanket. No, it's the destruction of a drugged up, addicted lifestyle that's been allowed to just spiral out of control. And here we are spending over $500 million for homelessness. It's absolutely mind blowing. Local governments and nonprofits in the Portland area spent more than $500 million fighting homelessness last year, 70% increase from a year before. The number itself was shocking. John Tapogna, a senior policy advisor at Eco Northwest, which crunched the numbers. So the three counties we got are Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties, which would make up Oregon's Portland metro area. They spent $531 million on homelessness interventions in fiscal year 2023. $531 million. These geographically, the areas that they're covering for their homelessness are not that big. These are not incredibly huge areas. And yet the amount of resources required to go into the areas most populated with the homeless encampments, I mean, it tells you how kind of mind-boggling these numbers are, just in a sheer dollar amount, $500 million, and the problem is getting worse by a lot. I mean, it's literally mind-blowing. Where was this $531 million spent? The bulk of the funds were spent on temporary shelter and services, followed by housing placement. Just an admin ate up about 10% there, at 50 million. And despite the surge in spending on services, homelessness in Multnomah County has continued to grow. It's gotten worse. The county issued a press release announcing a decrease in chronic homelessness, but an overall increase in people counted with and without shelter since 2022 has gone up. Washington and Clackamas counties, however, saw their homeless populations decrease in 2023. I don't believe any of the numbers that they give us on any of this stuff. I just don't. I think the point in time count is, let's just take a team out into the wilderness of the urban area where the tents are. Let's take a team out one night and we're just going to look around and, hey, are you homeless? Okay, that's one. Oh, you got another guy over there scurrying across the alleyway. That's two. The homeless population is a fluid situation. And the way these people live, if you've ever even watched some of my videos with Andrea SOARS and the homeless encampments in Seattle, those people, they're here one minute, they're there the next, they're in jail the next, they're out of state the next, they got a legal issue over here. They go on a manic episode because they're mentally just out of their minds and they go crazy and go somewhere else. They end up in psych outfit. I mean, you just don't know, and trying to get an actual handle on these numbers, to me, I don't trust any of the numbers. I just think, well, that's a rough ballpark, give or take 50%. You know what I mean? So whether they're going up, whether they're going down, but the sheer dollar numbers here that have been spent, it to me is just like, what? Whereas you want to talk about a bigger problem. How about state of California spending $24 billion on homelessness? And you know what they said to that when people started asking them, so where was that money spent? Yeah, you know what? We're not even going to have to get back to you on that because we don't really know. We're not really sure. Yeah, we don't really have a system to follow the metrics. We don't really know if it's working. All the interagencies that are partaking of this $24 billion. Yeah, they don't really work together and we're just not really sure, but hey, keep voting for us because, man, we spent $24 billion and LA looks like it does. Skid Row looks like it does. Sacramento looks like it does. Oakland looks like it does. $24 billion to get that. $531 million to get Portland's look. Yeah. This is a homeless industrial complex, isn't it? It's a complex that just keeps going. And if you actually take care of homelessness, good Lord, what would all those folks do? How about that 50 million from the 531 million that went to admin? 10% went to admin. Yeah, that's a lot of salaries. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of computers and whatnot. You don't have that homelessness issue. It's gone. Money's not going to be there, whether it's from the federal level. And the $531 million came from a variety of sources, as they typically do. Here in Seattle, our King County Regional Homeless Authority, I think their CEO, their temporary CEO just got let go. And you've just got an absolute cluster in King County, at the King County Regional Housing Authority, with our police chief had to step down. Now he's gay. You just got all this crazy storylines going on in Seattle and King County. It's just like, can't really tell whether we're coming or going. Yeah, those complexes have to keep going because otherwise people would be out jobs. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well, you know what's interesting though? Is when you go to a city like Oklahoma City, you realize, wow, this is very different. You've got other issues there. It's blazing hot. Yeah. And it's flat. I mean, you don't have mountains to climb, right? You don't have the ocean to swim in. You don't have, lakes and rivers like you do here in the Pacific Northwest, but you don't have the shenanigans that Portland has. You don't have the shenanigans that Seattle has. You don't have shenanigans like that at all. And you realize you don't have graffiti everywhere. That's one thing I really notice. I'm over in Seattle a lot right now, working on the boat, doing paddle boarding, all kinds of stuff on Lake Union because it's epic. Even though all these shenanigans are going on, but I always justify that with tents don't float. So, that's what we're doing. But my son and I were talking, Kieran and I were talking about how he is now recognizing, he is 31 and he is recognizing that he does a lot of traveling. And when he goes elsewhere, he realizes, maybe because we grew up here in Seattle, we're kind of, we just take it for granted that all downtown cores have massive homeless problems. And then you walk around in a lot of areas in Seattle and you got people screaming at the trees on drugs that are just absolutely whacked out of their mind. Other parts of the country don't have this. We've just become immune to the whole homelessness drug complex that happens here. And I think that's exactly what happens in a lot of these big West Coast cities, is that they've been overrun and the residents don't realize, oh, this is really, really bad. This is not good. So, but anyway, just keep voting for those progressive, leadership styles, and I'm sure it'll work out, right? Yeah. Make that vote count. All right. That's it for me on this one. But big increase in spending. Who would have thought? Yeah. All right. Shenanigans, I say. We'll catch up with you guys in the next one. Bye for now.